Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gail Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gailcarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Hi, everyone. This is Gail Carson, and I'm going to encourage you to go to my Spunky Old Broad site on YouTube and listen to the videos that we have posted there and the audios and so forth. So if you will do that, I would sure appreciate it. And now I'd like to bring you our guest for today, who is Nir Bashan. He is the founder and CEO of the Creator Mindset. And through his workshops and consulting, he teaches business leaders how to harness the power of creativity to improve profitability, increase sales, and make work more meaningful. His clients include such prestige companies as AT&T, Microsoft, Ace Hardware, NFL Network, EA Sports, JetBlue, and many others. He has also worked on numerous albums, movies, and advertisements, winning a Clio Award. And that's really important, folks. In case you don't know what a Clio Award is, it's a very prestigious award in the ad industry, and receiving an Emmy nomination for his creativity, and was one of the youngest professors ever selected to teach graduate courses at the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. He lives in Orlando, Florida, and has a new book, The Creator Mindset, 92 Tools to Unlock the Secrets to Innovation, Growth, and Sustainability. Welcome, Nir.
Hey, thank you, Gail. Thank you for having me.
Well, lots of things to talk about here, and this is a show on how to live regret-free. So when we talk about the things that you talk about, which is creativity and innovation and growth, that's all a part of it. So let's talk about this, because I have my own feelings on this next question, and I'm wondering what your answer is going to be. And that is, are we all really born creative? I would think we're born creative, but I'm not sure that it continues on as we age. So what's your opinion?
It's a really good question, Gail. So the way I look at it is this: roughly 75,000 years ago, there was a woman being attacked by a beast far larger than us, and far more powerful and faster. And, she was in imminent danger. She saw a stick that was nothing, but a walking stick. And she saw a little berry picker that, was like a little sharp object. And in those, terrifying moments, she had the world's first creative idea. And what she did was she took the berry picker and put it on the end of the stick and was able to, stave off the beast and save her life. And that was the birth of creativity for humankind. And I believe that since that moment, creativity is such an important and integral element into survival that it is something we carry with us, all of us. All of humanity on Earth carries with us today, and yet, sadly, most of us don't use it.
Well, I have to say that I have always considered myself a non-creative person, and although I'm creative to people who are absolutely zero with creativity, I have so many friends who are really creative. I mean, some were creative artistically, some are creative with ideas and programs and things like that, and new ways of doing things. And I'm creative to a point, but not the way they are. So I've never really considered myself creative. But you say there's a difference between art, and I'm not sure what you're thinking of as art, and creativity. Now, I had one of my very best friends, I don't know if you ever heard of her, was Connie Gordon. And Connie was listed and is listed in the Guinness Book of Records as the most creative, most prolific artist in the world. and she has sold 16 million art books. She's passed away, and I was a dear friend of her, an executor of her estate, so I know a lot about her. And she was one of the most creative people I knew. And we used to go up to our Florida Speakers Association meetings. We talked the entire time, and the way coming back, the entire way back, we just never ran out of things to say because she was always coming up with new ideas, much more than I was. So tell me the difference between art and creativity.
So art is a place where most of us get introduced to creativity. We're kids, we're in kindergarten, and I've studied this and found it all over the world. It's not just in the West, it's also in parts of Asia, Africa. We're children, and, we're given a piece of paper, we're told to draw something. We're like, wow, this is creativity. The problem with that is that art represents just 1% of the entire creativity spectrum. It's just one small portion, yet most of us live our entire lives thinking that art is equal to creativity. It's not. Creativity is filled with things like innovation, problem solving, and the beauty is that these problems get solved in a way that you, Gail, or your friend Connie, would never be able to be replicated by anyone else. It is the ultimate market advantage, and especially today, with everything going on in the world, we need that. We need that sort of edge. We need that ability to decide that we want to live regret-free, that we want to follow our conviction. And for me, nothing resonates more true than the individual's ability to problem solve, to stay alive. And that's what Harriet gave us, and we all have it within us today. And the way that I practice it is in a business and in a product or service, in a way to, beat analyst prediction, to grow to new market shares, to expand. And so artwork is just one tiny little portion of what creativity can offer you, and we cannot stop there. We need to grow, and we need to learn how to use creativity in our everyday approach.
So is creativity something that can be taught? And if it can be, do you think it should be taught in our elementary and middle schools? Because I would think that's where minds are forming, and that's where it should be done. But do you think it can be taught?
Absolutely. It just takes the will to learn, and it takes an ability to teach it in a way that people understand it. So I wrote the book, The Creator Mindset, about teaching people how to use creativity. I'm not a professor. I don't sit, in office hours on Mondays and Thursdays and have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday to think. Gail, I'm out there every day. I work. I have employees that need, their healthcare coverage. One of my staff members just had a scare at the hospital, and we were there trying to figure out what was going on. I'm out there in the real world doing every single day. This isn't theory for me. This is trial and error. Oh my God, we're not creative enough. How do we become more creative so that we can teach it to everybody? But sadly, most of society is focused, most of the business community is focused on the analytics. Let's look at the spreadsheet. Let's look at the P&L. Let's look at the 3-month prediction. Let's look at, the quarterly earnings and stuff like that. But most of these analytic constructs are rear view mirror approaches. They're things that have happened before, Gail, and as you know, and I know, and people who've been entrepreneurs forever know that what happened yesterday is not necessarily an indication of what will happen tomorrow. And so, yes, creativity can be taught. Yes, it is not being taught nearly enough. I think there's 2 or 3 graduate business schools that even have a course on how to become more creative in businesses. And it's sorely missing these days from the, problem-solving toolkit that businesses have and people in their careers have.
That's interesting because, you said graduate school, and I was talking about elementary and middle schools need to be taught creativity. So, you talked about analytical thinking. why do you, well, I can understand why analytical thinking is important in business. I mean, you do have to look at P&Ls, and you do have to look at product innovation, and you do have to look at, competitors, and, there's a whole bunch of things why you need to analyze. But why do you think that there is so much analytical thinking as compared to creative thinking? In other words, I would think that leaders need to think creatively to stay one step ahead, especially now. I mean, yes, we're dealing with COVID, and we're dealing with civil unrest, and we're dealing with all the other stuff, but it also is indicative that, I mean, I always say we are not going back to a new normal. We're just going back to new, because nothing is ever going to be normal again.
Yeah.
And so you've got to rethink how you are doing your business and what you're going to offer, and what it's going to look like. And there are some businesses that I have friends of mine that are doing very well because they have thought creatively and come up with ideas and made things happen, and others that have just given up. So, and yet there are people that can't make a shift because of circumstance of what they sell or how they sell it. But how does business decide analytical versus creative, or creative versus analytical?
What's happening is, and it's a good question. And yes, I think that schools, grade schools, need to teach creativity, no doubt, and they're not doing it, by the way. So what happens is the analytics are important, but when we don't combine them with creativity, we can only get so far. Gail, I've made a living in the last few years of helping companies who have exhausted the analytical structure of why things aren't, getting better, and why they aren't selling more, or why they aren't growing, and so on and so forth. And so what ends up happening is, when we're looking at analytics alone, it just doesn't tell us the complete picture. And sometimes that makes people uncomfortable when I say that. So I talk to people about, things like sales. I say, okay, are the predictions for sales numbers giving you the entire picture? And then generally people go, well, what do you mean? I say, okay, what about the relationships? What about the soft skills? What about empathy and humor, or different sort of elements of personality and traits of your business? Are they represented in numbers? And then people say no. I say, okay, what are numbers really representing? And then people go, well, I don't know. It's just, that's how we work. That's how we were taught to work, and so on and so forth. So we get into a dialogue to talk about why we as a society, and it's not just us in the West, it's everyone in the world, why do we like to quantify things? And Gail, I do believe that we like to quantify things because it makes us feel in control. And when we feel in control, we feel like, hey, we can analyze the chaos going on and assign a number to it. If I tell you something weighs 5 pounds, you kind of know what it is, but it can be, a small bowling ball, or it can be, a giant cardboard box, 3 stories tall. It doesn't really accurately describe something. It is only, at best, something that kind of gives us an idea of something. So why are we selling ourselves short, Gail, by assigning numbers to things? It just drives me nuts. And yet we worship these numbers like they're the end all be all. They're not the end all be all. There is so much more to life than just ascribing a number to it. But it's easy to teach. I can tell you, oh, that's 5 pounds. You get it? And you go, yeah, okay, cool. But if I tell you, Gail, you need to have empathy here when you're looking at this client, and you need to challenge the way that you're thinking about it so that you can understand where they've been. Now, how do I test that? I can't. Or, at best, I, really can't set up a system that sits you in a classroom with a pen and a piece of paper. Yet those skills are just as important as the analytical skills. I'm not saying throw away analytics. I'm saying combine them with the best of what God has given every human being on earth, which is a brain that can function in 2 distinct ways. One is the analytic, and one is the creative mind. It's time to unite those 2. And it's so important today more than ever. Listen, we could have landed a woman on Mars by now, Gail. We could have cured cancer, but we're not encouraging people to be creative at work. We're encouraging people to be more and more and more analytical. And we lose as a society when we don't encourage risk-taking on wonderful creative ideas that can literally change the world.
Well, you mentioned, how people look at things and analyze it in a business sense. And you've worked with huge companies like AT&T and T and Microsoft and Ace and so forth. When you approach them, or they approach you, I don't know which comes first, about creativity, what is their reaction? And how do you sell it to a company that's really, I mean, I can see selling creativity to an entrepreneur because they're always looking for the next best thing. But a giant like the ones I've just mentioned, which are heavily compartmentalized and structured because they've been around for a while. I mean, I laugh at AT&T because they split it up many years ago because it was a conglomerate and it's right back where it was many years ago. So, how do you approach a company like that?
It really is about. I'm kind of a master unseller, to be honest. Gail, I set expectations and I make sure that people know, that when they engage with me, that they have realistic expectations. There's nothing worse than, working with somebody and, overselling and under delivering. I try to, do the opposite, which is to be realistic. But generally, people think, okay, Neer's going to come in and we're going to need a ton of money to hire new people, or we're going to need to buy a new machine, product, or service to implement this thing, or it's going to be some methodology that we got to buy products for, and it's going to just be really expensive. But everything that I talk about and everything in my approach, Gail, is free. It is 100% free. It costs nothing. It is literally just the will to want to implement something and to think differently about a particular problem. I have 92 tools in the book, but I have another 300 that didn't make the book that are really about shifting perspective. They're about looking at problems and solving them at their root core. And I find that no matter what company it is, from the bigger companies to the manufacturing place that have 50 employees, the problems all boil down to kind of the same thing, right? It's always complacency, or it's ego, that's corrupting things, or hey, it ain't broke, why fix it? It's usually the same dang things that come up over and over again in every organization. And what I try to do is I try to go in and unseat those things so that a sense of freedom can begin to radiate. Now, I work with a lot of executives, and I tell executives, hey, this is how you got to go and implement it into your team. It's not good enough that y'all are thinking in this way. We all have to, move the organization in that way. And yeah, sometimes the bigger firms have trouble with it. But it's no different than a small company that power is concentrated in one area where it gets kind of rotten, or several hires are nepotism hires, and all of a sudden you have a department that people don't feel engaged with. So the problems of a big company and the problems of a small company can be deduced to a lot of the same elements, and a lot of those elements are conditions of humanity that we wish we didn't have, but we have around us every day.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I'm just wondering the approach, and how the reception is. And so I assume you either have to deal with of course, either the VP level or the CEO level or CMO level or COO level to get into these companies. So what I'm trying to understand is, if I go into a company like AT&T, and I've worked with AT&T,
Yeah.
but I worked with them on, what did I work with them on? I think customer service skills and telephone skills and things like that. What do you think? I mean, what would I need to do to be able to get into a company like that? How would I approach them?
I it's really about finding a need and meeting it with a solution. Again, I'm kind of a master underseller. I want to undersell rather than oversell, and I think the approach for me with a company like that or others is just to be very realistic with the expectations. And make sure that it generally somebody reads the book, Gail. The book's doing really well. I'm so blessed. Somebody reads the book and they reach out. They go, "Hey, we read the chapter about the self-doubt monster. We're releasing a book, a new product, and we're having a lot of trouble. And we read about it in your book. Can you come in and help us?" It's something like that. And then I generally say, "Okay, sure." This is what it will look like, and so on and so forth. And by the way, nothing is guaranteed in life, and so on and so forth. And I really work with them. The approach is to look at the problem and hope that we can come up with solutions together. A lot of my stuff is not get rich quick or instantly problem solve, Gail. It's really around building an ability for people to solve those problems by themselves.
Well, nothing is a quick fix anymore, So the point is that, and of course, when you're dealing with systems and people and traditions, it takes a lot longer. Well, we have about 5 minutes left, Near, and I want to make sure people know, first of all, how they can get a hold of your book. And let's do that first. Where can they get a hold of Near, and where can they get a hold of your book?
Yes, ma'am. So there's only 3 Near Bashans in the entire world. It's NIR.
That's a good thing for having an unusual name, right?
If your listeners can't find me, then I don't want them to find me. Let's put it that way. There's 3 of us. One is a woman living in Israel who is a closet designer. She has a wonderful Pinterest. That's not me. And there's like a kid, I think he's like 15, 16, and he's uploading like Call of Duty clips or some video games, Gail. I haven't played video games in 20 years, so that's not my thing. I'm very easy to find. I'm the first person that pops up on Google for 10 pages. So NIRBASHAN. The book is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's in stores. If you want to put on a mask and go get a physical copy, you can do it now. It's in stores everywhere across the country and in Canada. Very, very, very exciting. I'm easy to find. And I'd love to hear from your listeners.
That sounds wonderful. So remember, folks, even though we pronounce his name Near, it's spelled N-I-R, N-I-R, and his last name is B-A-S-H-A-N. And the book is called The Creator Mindset, 92 Tools to Unlock the Secrets to Innovation, Growth, and Sustainability. Now, we have not, we've got a few minutes left. We have not asked you everything that I'm sure you want me to ask you. So I guess the last question I would ask you is, how does viewing the world as it can be help us to become more creative?
Creativity allows us to view things in an unbound way. When we turn to creativity, all problems become solvable. When we use analytics alone, we suffer. We suffer with regret. We suffer with self-doubt. We suffer with all of these attributes that, are not helping to solve problems and not helping to elevate your product, your service, your business, your career. They help drag it down. And so viewing the world as it can be, not as it is, gives you the opportunity to free yourself, Gail, from the crushing weight of self-doubt, the crushing weight of worrying constantly of what am I doing the right thing, and is this something that people want, and so on and so forth. When you're able to think creatively, you lift all of those chains off of your sense of reason, and you allow your analytics, your reason, to be balanced with your creativity. And that is how the good Lord intended all of us to function, yet so many of us just stay on the analytical side because it's more comfortable. But if we are able to combine both worlds and both abilities, harness the full power of our brain, then we will be way, way happier as human beings and way more successful in our business.
Well, that's the ideal thing, is not to go all analytical and not to go all creative, but to combine them, because that's what makes it work. So when people, say, well, I can't do this because I'm creative. And of course, a lot of people talk about right brain and left brain, and people still say, well, that's because I'm right brain, because that's because I'm left brain. And yet, we know people use both sides of their brain. And so there's that to contend with as well. And so I would think that getting your book would be just an answer to so many situations. And I think it would be a great tool for anyone to have on their desk at a time when they say, oh, what do I do next? I mean, this is a perfect thing. I mean, I would strongly recommend getting it. Well, Near,
and Gail, I'm getting a lot of feedback from people that haven't read the book in its entirety. They're reading a chapter here or a chapter there just for like a brush up and sending me an email. I love that stuff.
Well, and not only that, you also, they can choose from all the tools that you have in there as well. So this has been a delight, Near, and I hope that our listeners will be in touch with you and will get the book, because we certainly need something at this point. I mean, we are at a crisis point in business right now. So people really need what it is you have to offer. And I'm going to look to get the book myself, because I think it will help me in some of my dilemmas as well. So thank you so much for being with us, Near, and hopefully your great work will continue for a long time to come.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks for having me.
Hi, this is Dr. Gail, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gailcarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.